Thank you very much for inviting me and having this opportunity to share my thoughts about specifically what can be done about the problem of political prisoners in Europe. You know, we were talking about mobilizing public opinion in Europe and maybe in the world about this problem. I think we have, in a way, to thank Mr. Putin, because he has done in recent months such an amazing work in mobilizing international media attention, international public attention on issues that many activists, human rights defenders have been talking for years and years, but unfortunately they were ignored. Other people who were talking about economic engagement of countries, authoritarian countries like Russia and Azerbaijan, about understanding of Putin, they have been respected, they have been listened to, and today we have the result. We have, I would say, another fascist country on the eastern flank of Europe re-emerging. And for me, I don't put here any difference between Putin or Aliyev or Lukashenko. These are people of the same religion. They are preaching the very same values, they are talking the same language. If you watch Russian television or if you watch Azerbaijan state television, it's the same propaganda that Europe is full of gays, it is in collapse, it is going to collapse very soon. It's poor, everyone in Europe are prostitutes and gays, and it's going to be end of the world if we don't save Europe. So now we have a situation, Aliyev, one dictator, is chairman of the Council of Europe. I think any conscious European should feel deeply ashamed when you just realize what is Council of Europe, what sort of history it has, what sort of ideals and values actually it was designed to stand up for, and where it is now. And I think Gerald has shown very well, very specifically, all the problems that have to do with this current situation of Azerbaijan being the chairman of the Council of Europe. But look, I'm a former political prisoner. I've been in jail once 16 months, another time I was more lucky than our friends. I spent in January, February, just 15 days. That was my second very short imprisonment. And then in March, many of our friends have been jailed, and unfortunately they are sentenced now for 8 and 10 years. The situation in Azerbaijan is deteriorating with a cosmic speed. Aliyev is feeling more confident when he sees the situation in Turkey, in Russia. Just, you know, he feels the absolute green light in becoming even more authoritarian, even more blunt, and more honest in what he does and what he stands for. So I was thinking always, what can be done in this situation? I think that I've looked at the agenda that has been proposed here. It comes together the proposals that we have to help families of political prisoners, very important. We have to help lawyers that help those families, very important. The appointing new rapporteur of political prisoners, very important. All these issues are important. But for me, one very important thing that I'm missing here is institutional approach. We have to look at the roots of the problem. Why is it that Putin or Aliyev or Lukashenko or these authoritarian regimes are so strong now that they are chairing, you know, the most respected human rights organizations in Europe? Why there is still this debate even in Germany, you know, that actually who is Putin? We have to understand Putin. Very respected people, at least who were respected before, like former German prime ministers, you know, not one, you know. They are basically serving these authoritarian regimes. Of course, it's put in some contracts and deals, but these are the threats that are existential threats. We're not just talking about political prisoners in Azerbaijan or in Russia and Ukraine. I think this issue is broader, and this is how it should be presented to media, because otherwise media, German media or French, British media or American media, they will never get interested, in who is this one or two prisoners in this or that part of Europe. What is interesting is existential security threat that is there for Europe, because all the issues that Gerald was talking today and that many human rights defenders organizations have been talking today for so long have been ignored for so long. So I see solution in institutional approach, and I will talk about one specific area. I think there will be many brilliant ideas. I think after my personal experience, spending 16 months in jail and losing my father while I was in jail, having my friends in jail who have been sentenced now have to spend maybe 8, 9 or even more years in jail. I think that it is not enough just to highlight the problem at one conference, at one seminar, where all the same people are coming together. It is very important that we can reorganize, regroup, that we can find allies in Europe, in Russia, in Azerbaijan, everyone who shares the same values. And I don't think we are a minority, we are actually still a majority if you take the whole of Europe. But we have to mobilize everyone, business, governments, individuals, students, exactly as partly these people or groups have been mobilized in the campaign for my and Adnan's release. But this is not just enough to demand someone's release. I think the key issue is free and independent media. I absolutely believe that if in the 90s there would be free and independent global media in Russia established within and outside of Russia, when the internet started to march in all this post-Soviet space, if a very sophisticated network, with elements of traditional TV channels and social media, bloggers, citizen journalists, would be worked on and would be promoted, if money would be invested in there, if public opinion because Gerald was talking about mobilizing public opinion in Europe, and I mean probably you were talking, as I understand, about democracies, right? But I think it's also very essential, and actually to look at the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is that public opinion in countries like Azerbaijan and Russia, and also Ukraine was the case until recently and partly even now, is manipulated by huge investments, huge investments that Kremlin puts in media, in propaganda media. So I think there is, everyone by now realizes, of course, that Europe lost this information war to Putin, but I think now it's time to start doing things in the right way. And I can tell you one small example from Azerbaijan. After I came to Berlin, because I have seen that it is impossible to create infrastructure in Azerbaijan, every NGO is shut down in Azerbaijan, people are jailed, sentenced. So I decided to create infrastructure here in Berlin. And today, within just 1 year, we have 15 people with very small resource. We have 15 people working in Berlin and in Azerbaijan. And we have 10,000 views on YouTube daily. I've done it with really very, very small resources. I absolutely believe that there are enough partners, NGOs, journalists, citizen journalists, businesses, rich people, governments that could do it and should plan it, should start designing a new sort of media for Soviet space. I think it should be first of all in Russian, because look, Putin invests $350 million annually in Russia today, and it gives its results. There is much more money invested in bloggers, in comments, in many other things that are, have impact. 2 days ago I was sitting in Berlin and talking with a group of German journalists, nice people, having barbecue, drinking beer, and they were telling me that they think that Spiegel is not balanced enough, that Russian position is not shown enough there. That this guy didn't know that the whole Russian propaganda about fascism in Ukraine has just been destroyed by the fact that one Jewish candidate had more votes in Ukrainian elections than two fascists. You know, they had together less than 2% of votes in recent Ukrainian election. So these sort of facts, if you think they are known to every ordinary Russian or Azeri, you know, and Russian is still lingua franca in this region, there is a huge need and demand for this. And what we have seen is a constant, you know, decline in investment in civil society, in independent media in that region. And I think now is a high time to rethink the strategy and to get the act together and to start to invest strategically in a very planned manner in independent media in Russian language and in local languages in post-Soviet era. The last sentence I want to make here about the structure of such a concept. I think we had at some point the CNN era, then there was Al Jazeera era, and I think now this is where we can start in ex-Soviet space. We can start a Wikipedia sort of TV network where it will be based in Kiev, but the network itself will be functioning, you know, small bits and parts of it all over ex-Soviet Union space. And we should involve a lot of citizen journalists, bloggers, because in spite of all the repressions, in spite of all the aggression against individual liberties in these countries, in Azerbaijan, in Russia, in Belarus, in Central Asia, in all of these countries, there are still people who are risking their lives and their freedom and fight for freedom of speech in these countries, for freedom of media, and for release of political prisoners. So this is my contribution to today's debate. I think that we, while again confirming the importance of all the issues that Turgut was talking about and have been listed in this agenda, I think we have to keep in mind that institutional approach in supporting independent media and civil society in these countries is a key to have real results in the years to come. Maybe it will take 1, 2, 5, 10 years, but we have to build this up. Because otherwise, it's not that we're anything like democracy or human rights or individual liberties. They are spreading in the, in Europe. It's just the opposite. It's a far right. It's fascists, are coming to power and getting more popular even in the Western